What's goody? It's your boy, and I'm back with another banging video. Hey, I'm not even gonna hold y'all. This was a request for video. This was a request video. You feel me? 5 times Larry Bird was injured but refused to quit. I know at least 2 times for sure with that eye situation when he got elbowed in the eye, and the one where he hit his face on the floor and he fractured his cheekbone. That's super impressive. We'll see if they have any extra ones in here that I haven't heard about. That's one of my biggest points on doing these videos. There's always a little insight or something that we haven't heard of yet. If you're new to the content, I appreciate you. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I do a lot of Larry Bird content. I have a lot coming for you guys. But other than that, Bird gang was goody. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, bro. I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all been showing a lot of love. And I've been making sure I get a lot of Larry Bird videos in. Just because, you know what I'm saying? That's how we started. That's where it's all started from. And y'all always appreciate it. Y'all had a love for Bird. I had a love for Bird. So it's always a good vibe in these videos. But with that being said, I'm going to just jump into it. We can speak a little bit throughout. I'm going to speak after. Let's get it.
You know, to his credit, he gets up and fights through it and goes out there and plays. But he is not a healthy person right now.
I've never met an athlete that would play with pain the way he does, and an athlete that's so highly self-motivated as Larry Bird.
I think 4 or 5 years you'll think back about what he did, or you'll just, you'll go that. I think it's one of those things that as the years go by, it'll become bigger and bigger and bigger.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with a video. For this time, once again, we have to talk about Larry Legend, one of my favorite players of all time. And I think even the most casual NBA fan knows that Larry Bird in his career was a very tough player, and he overcame tremendous adversity as well as injuries. And I wanted to make a very quick video explaining how tough Larry Bird was and just some of the big time injuries he overcame. So with that being said, let's get into the video and look at 5 times Larry Bird overcame injuries and absolutely dominated. So the first injury we're going to look at is from 1979, before Larry Bird was even in the NBA. And this injury occurred in a friendly softball game with Larry Bird's brother as well as friends. And here's Jackie McMullen explain this very bizarre and peculiar injury.
Well, he shows up, and who's on the other team but his brother? So Larry's playing out in the outfield, and his brother hits this kind of spinning, looping ball, almost like a Tim Wakefield knuckleball. It's just spinning all over the place. And Larry tries to go down and make a basket catch, and his finger goes all the way back, and he's like, man, wow, it really hurts. And you look down, and his finger was completely dislocated and mangled, and it really was bothering him. He had to stop playing right away. And so now remember, he's been drafted by the Celtics during this point, but he has not signed a contract yet. So his finger is in a bad way. He has to have major surgery with clips put in and pins and everything else. And he never tells the Celtics this has happened. But sooner or later they get word, and they summon him to Boston. And the trainer examines him and says, and the team doctor examines him, and they say to Red Auerbach, this guy's damaged goods. Now,
damaged good?
Really? So he says, come on, Larry, get dressed. So Larry puts on his stuff. Red throws him the ball. He goes out. He starts shooting from all over the floor. He's hitting from everywhere. Throws him a few bounce passes, has him throws a few overhead passes, and he said, you look fine to me, kid. And Bird said, great. But Bird to this day will tell you, he's never had the same feel for the basketball.
Yo, I actually heard this story yesterday, and she went a good bit more in depth. I didn't know he was already drafted by the Celtics at that point. And then on top of the fact, I think like this anyway, a player like Bird, that type of small injury couldn't stop him, even if his whole hand was like built different, or if he had to restructure his hand, if he had a broken finger, he would have found a way to change his shooting touch or change the way he played to where he could have still been great. He went out there and showed them. It's probably swished everyone bottom of the net. You know what I'm saying? He's a different type of player. He always proves he's different no matter what it is. And he's always up for the challenge. If somebody doesn't, you know what I'm saying, doesn't feel like he could accomplish something, he's already a feat that he's already on top of. You know what I'm saying? He's a different type of person. He's on a different level. Jumping back into it.
So obviously a pretty bad finger injury that affected Bird for the rest of his life. And around 2010, Larry Bird gave an interview and said his finger to this day is shaped like a boomerang at a 45-degree angle pointing toward his thumb. And he's had 2 surgeries that have failed to straighten it out. But I think the most intriguing thing in that clip is that Larry Bird himself said he never had the same feel for the basketball after this injury. And Bird, for his career already, was one of the best shooters of all time. He was the first player ever to win the 50-40-90 club, and he routinely shot over 90% from the line. But with that being said, Bird actually could have been a better shooter than he was in the NBA if it wasn't for that devastating finger injury. Now, next up on the Bird injury list, we go to his back, one of the worst injuries a player could ever have. And this injury for Bird occurred in 1985 in the middle of his prime. And here's his doctor, as well as a few commentators, talking about how tough Bird was and how difficult it was for him to even play a basketball game.
Larry had two jobs his last 7 years of playing. It was playing basketball, and then it was him being committed to taking care of his back.
He had first heard it in 1985, building the driveway at his mom's house back in French Lick.
Larry decides to do it himself. This is Larry Bird, the superstar, out there breaking his back, literally shoveling gravel. And that was the beginning of a process.
I would see him on TV laying down, and then they told me that he had to lay down on planes, different things like that, and I was like, wow.
As Magic soared through the prime of his career, Bird was breaking down. His deteriorating back and punishing style of play proving an excruciating mix.
From 88 to 92, it was painful to watch. It was painful to cover. Larry is quite ornery when he's not feeling well, which means he was ornery for those next 4 years.
He could manage the pain in a way that very few people can do.
If you get paid to go to work, you got to go to work.
It was a situation that he was seeing almost daily. He had lost the structural stability in his spine, so it would slip into abnormal positions to try and lock itself to get an artificial stability. That's
that
like
sounds painful. My back hurt.
Door, and somebody's still pushing on the door. So what we had to do was unlock his spine, realign it, do techniques that would hold that for 4 hours, 6 hours, that type of thing, and then he'd go play basketball.
So obviously that back injury was pretty devastating for Bird, and it kind of marked the end of his prime. But even with that being said, Bird in his last 7 seasons still put up tremendous stats, averaging 25.1 points per game, 9.3 boards, 7.0 assists on near 50-40-90.
Alright, let me stop it, yo. He still averaged 25, 9 assists, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. 39% from the three-point line, damn near 50% from the field goal with, how do we explain it? Like, his back was just not right. Like, and the type of pain he was going through, you couldn't even imagine. And I just wanted to stop the video to say this, man. A lot of people neglect the fact of how hard, like, the job is for other people. Now, that just shows him working on his mother's house, building her driveway, totally derailed his entire career. He could have had probably like 4 or 5 more good seasons. But not only that, other things, but that is a big part of them. Those guys that do that day in and day out, man, their careers are cut short. You know what I'm saying? They all, like, most of the time they end up with bad backs if they're working like in construction for that long. Now, I just want to show some love to that job. That just shows how hard that is. He did that just the driveway affected the rest of his career. But he's not used to, like, his body's not used to that much pressure being on his back. And then his play style also added into that. He fell. He was pushed around a lot, fouled really hard. But for him to even, a lot of players would have retired like a while, way before that. But that definitely wouldn't have played those last 4 seasons. Man, he's impressive, and his pain tolerance is crazy. But let's jump back into it.
Splits. Those stats right there from an offensive perspective are still some of the best stats of all time. And once again show Bird could handle pain like few athletes ever. And one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard was from Larry Bird's former teammate, that being Robert Parrish. According to Parrish, Larry Bird never took painkillers, pills, or any shots in his entire career. Bird simply toughed it out and showed mental toughness as well as physical toughness and played basketball at the highest level for 7 more years.
No painkillers that whole time?
Now also one thing Larry Bird
no shots, no nothing?
was being mentally tough. And here's a quick story from Kevin McHale talking about Larry Bird's mental toughness after being stuck down in an airport for 10 straight hours.
Back then when we flew commercial, we didn't fly private, we played in a Tuesday night game in Cleveland. And of course, we got up for the first flight out. We had a game on Wednesday night in New Jersey. Snowstorm hits Cleveland. We're at the airport at 7 in the morning. Flight's canceled at 7. It's canceled at 8. It's canceled at 9. It's canceled at 10. Canceled at 11, 12. We finally leave about 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. We fly up to New Jersey. Now the storm has kind of moved into Jersey. And the bus driver says, well, I can't get to the hotel into the arena. I can only go to one place. Well, we had a game that night. We go to the arena. So we get to the arena, and I mean, we're dragging. And we're sitting around the locker room, and, and everybody's kind of, we're tired. And, and all of a sudden, the coach gives a little bit of a speech of, come on, man, guys, we're playing basketball. Let's get ready to go. And Larry stands up, and Larry says, a couple other few choice words, and he says, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to take it out on their rear ends. So I was like,
right.
all right, so let's go. So we go on the floor. Elbert King sitting there. Larry walks up to Elbert King and goes, don't take this butt whooping personally. I've been eating hot dogs all day. And then Elbert King looks at him like, you've been eating hot dogs all day? What's that got to do with me? And we went out and just hammered him. I mean, we terrorized them. And that was Larry. There was no excuses. I mean, he just...
What does the expression mean?
That was just
I've been
his
eating hot
competitive
dogs all
nature.
day.
But a day when you fly all day and eat hot dogs in the airport, best thing was Elbert's look on his face like,
oh,
what hot dogs got to do with me?
Right.
And that story from Kevin McHale, for the most
okay,
part,
you've been stuck
is
in the
pretty
airport.
comical, but I think it still shows Larry Bird had extreme mental toughness, and when it came to playing basketball, he would give it his best every single night. And I actually went back to Larry Bird's game charts, and I found this game from 1986 on April 13th. In this game, Boston beat New Jersey by 28 points. Larry Bird had 26, 4, and 3 on 64% shooting, and he didn't miss a single three-pointer or a single free throw. And what makes it even more impressive to me is this game versus New Jersey was the last game of the season. Bird could have easily packed it in and waited for the playoffs, but still, he wanted to play this game for his teammates as well as his coaches. And that year in '86, Larry Bird didn't miss a single game, playing all 82. And if you compare that mindset from Bird to the modern day players, it's simply night and day. I pretty much guarantee you, any modern day superstar will 100% sit out that game and rest for the playoffs, but not Larry Bird. And when talking about Larry Bird in his prime, 1980 to 86, really before his big time injuries, he played 561 out of 574 games. He played all 82 games 3 times and over 36 minutes per game every single year. In 2 years, he actually led the NBA in minutes per game. So back in the day, Larry Bird, if he could walk, he was 100% suiting up and playing basketball. But the one time in Bird's career where he simply could not play was in 1989. This year, Larry Bird had severe bone spurs, he had what many people thought was a broken foot, and he had double Achilles surgery. And back in the day, an Achilles injury could possibly be the end of your career. But once again, not for Larry Bird, as the following year, he had a very great and underrated season, averaging 24.3 points per game, 9.5 boards, 7.5 assists, while playing 75 games at 39.3 minutes per game.
He came back and played 75 games.
Percentage. So even after all those injuries, Larry Bird once again came back to all-star form, and he overcame double Achilles surgery. Now the last Bird injury we have is in 1991, and this injury is also the last great Larry Bird moment in the 91 playoffs versus the Indiana Pacers. And to kind of set the stage, in this series, Boston, they were heavily favored, but in games 1 through 4, Bird was not playing up to par, only averaging 18 points per game, 9 assists, 8 boards, on 37% shooting and 11% from 3. And back in the day in the first round, it was a best-of-5 series, so Game 5 was a winner-take-all game. And near halftime of this game, Larry Bird would go down with a severe head injury, possibly a broken cheekbone, as well as a mild concussion.
Right here, the swipe, knocks it free, Bird on the floor, then left hand keeps it alive, but he stays down for a long time. What effort by Larry Bird.
Oh my goodness.
And Larry Bird is headed directly to the locker room for treatment.
Yo, he had a possible concussion, got up and walked out the game himself. You know what I'm saying? Oh, cheek fracture on top of that. But let's go back a little bit. He was having that 1989 season. He sat out because he had the back problem plus the double Achilles surgery. You know what I'm saying? One Achilles surgery. It's not funny. I'm sorry. It's just amazing to me. One Achilles surgery will take a player out for their career. He had double Achilles surgery with the back problems on top of whatever other problems he was having. Then he came back the next season and played like an all-star. Like he didn't have that. No, nobody can do that, bro. Nobody can do that. And then that was the 1990. He said 1991, so this was the next season. That is crazy. Like the last couple, like the rear end of his career, it was a whole injury plagued, like 4 years or 5 years, you know what I'm saying? And he played through that, the toughness. Like players aren't like that nowadays, man. Little nagging injuries take players out nowadays. He's built different. Like there was a guy in the last video I was watching for Larry Bird. He says he's from another planet. I think he's right. Let's jump back into it.
But in typical Larry Bird fashion, he would tough it out and come back in the middle of the third quarter.
And here comes...
That is crazy. In the middle of the third.
But certainly this out of the pages of Willis Reed in Game 5 of the championship series involving the Knicks and the Lakers in 69-70.
And in this Game 5 in the Boston Garden, from that moment on, Larry Bird would dominate for the remaining 18 minutes of that game, having 17 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists, on 60% shooting, leading Boston to a 3-2
17
win.
points in 18 minutes?
And that Game 5 versus Indy is the last great Larry Bird moment as he overcame injury and dominated in that second half. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. Let me know your guys' thoughts. How tough do you think Larry Bird was? Is he the greatest trash talker of all time? And where do you rank him on your all-time list? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.
Alright, that's the end of the video. And I just wanted to say this. You know what I'm saying? All of them were impressive to go through. But I do think that hand injury was insanely crazy. And the reason why I do think that is because he said that changed his whole shooting form. It was never the same. His feel for the basketball is not the same. That's a big deal. Reason why I think that's a big deal because he was still 50-40-90, a legend, you know what I'm saying? Larry legend after the injury, you know what I'm saying? Right the year he was getting drafted by the Celtics, he was still this guy that we got. Don't get me wrong. Great, amazing, possibly top 5, you know what I'm saying? And on most people's lists, I would hope. But thing is, I'm thinking about, what if that injury didn't happen? Would he have been better than this? You know what I'm saying? Like, injuries is the only reason, in my opinion, he wasn't like #1 on most of our lists. Like, just to think, he did this with a bad hand. This is a bad hand. They said he was damaged goods. Damaged goods can still do something, apparently. That's crazy to me. I'm just thinking, man, maybe he could have averaged like a triple-double with 35 points. You know what I'm saying? If that hand would have been a little better, because it affects his shooting touch every time. Even though he was still a great shooter, he's still affected. He probably had to change his whole formation, had to change everything about his mechanics to deal with the hand injury he had went through, right? That's how I think, you know what I'm saying? That was my biggest take out of one of these things in the video. But you always get, all of these stories were a little more in-depth than anyone I heard. I like this video, man. I appreciated the time he put into it, the effort he put into it. And y'all know we show a lot of love for Larry. So I appreciate you guys, man. If you're new to the content, make sure you liking and subscribing, you feel me? Let's get this video up to at least 5,000 likes. If you're watching the video and it's not at 5,000 likes yet, please like it up for me, you feel me? By liking the video, more people gonna see the video. You feel me? That's the way the YouTube algorithm works. I appreciate you. I hope you know what it is. Till next time, watch you did.